In the lobby of the Massachusetts General Hospital's Child Welfare Center, where spring sunlight streamed through the windows, Olivia Williams was reviewing her final meeting materials. There was just an hour left until the center's annual charity event. For her, a Texas native, navigating Boston's high society was still an unfamiliar task. Having grown up in Houston, she sometimes found the city's old customs and multi-generational relationships suffocating. Just then, a gentle voice came from behind her. "Ms. Williams, your proposal was excellent. Your approach to helping abused children is truly innovative." When she turned around, there stood a tall man. Michael Anderson, an executive at Life Health Pharmaceuticals. As his clear eyes gazed at her from above his deep blue suit, Olivia found herself momentarily speechless. That was their beginning. Michael was a sincere man who valued family. On holidays, they would stroll through Boston Common together, ride bikes along the Charles River, and spend time in old bookstores. Occasionally, he would share memories from his childhood, days spent in a large mansion on Beacon Hill, his youth spent following in the footsteps of his Harvard-educated father. These stories seemed like tales from another world to Olivia. After a year of dating, Michael proposed to Olivia at a small French restaurant on Newbury Street. Snow was falling quietly outside the window, and candlelight on the table cast their shadows dancing on the wall. However, meeting the Anderson family cast a small shadow over Olivia's heart. At the formal introduction in their Beacon Hill mansion, Olivia found herself hesitating before the imposing 19th-century building. Carol Anderson was known as one of Boston's premier philanthropists. As the chairwoman of the Children's Future Foundation, she had accomplished numerous achievements. She also served as a Harvard University trustee, with connections extending throughout political and financial circles. That day, she greeted Olivia with a perfect smile. "What a lovely young woman. Michael's judgment hasn't failed him. Though I must say, being from Texas is a bit unexpected." Olivia didn't miss the subtle undertone in those words. Ashley, on the other hand, gave quite a different impression. Michael's sister lived in the family home with her 5-year-old son Noah. Since her marriage to a private school teacher had fallen apart, she had become strongly dependent on her mother. Beneath her superficial pleasantness, there was something cold. Still, Olivia tried not to let it bother her. In the 6 months between engagement and wedding, when Olivia discovered she was pregnant with twins, Michael shed tears of joy. However, having been assigned an important project at the pharmaceutical company, he was spending most weekdays traveling. During this time, Carol and Ashley began visiting Olivia with suspicious frequency. "We're family now. You can rely on us for anything," Carol would say, but Olivia felt something unsettling about it. Yet she couldn't quite identify what it was. Then came the morning of the wedding day. In the bridal suite at the Ritz-Carlton Boston, Olivia was slipping into her pure white wedding dress. She gently placed a hand on her slightly swollen belly. Outside the window, the soft early spring sunlight illuminated Boston's cityscape. The spires of old churches traced silhouettes through the morning mist. "Soon, our new life will begin," Olivia whispered to her twins. In that moment, a warm hope spread through her heart. Just then, Carol entered the bridal suite. Dressed in a luxury brand suit with perfect makeup, her mother-in-law-to-be wore a meaningful smile. In the dim room, her expression seemed unnaturally distorted. "Are you ready? The real trial begins now. You'll have to fulfill your duties properly as an Anderson bride." Those words sent a chill down Olivia's spine. But she told herself it was just nerves. The grand ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton Boston was a picture of beauty. 300-year-old crystal chandeliers scattered light like rainbows from the ceiling, while pure white roses and calla lilies adorned the venue with elegance. Gold leaf decorations on the walls reflected soft light, creating an atmosphere like a room in heaven. Over 300 guests were seated, dressed in the finest of Boston high society. The governor, federal judges, university presidents, corporate executives. The women wore the latest Chanel and Dior dresses, subtly adorned with Harry Winston jewelry. Local media representatives lurked in the corners of the venue, eager not to miss the wedding of the Queen of Philanthropy's eldest son. The society page reporter from the Boston Globe seemed to already be crafting the headline, "Wedding of the Century," in their mind. As the noon bells rang, the solemn tones of the pipe organ filled the air. Olivia took her first step onto the aisle, guided by Michael's warm gaze as she slowly walked forward. Her pure white wedding dress was specially designed by Vera Wang, a dress that Carol had strongly insisted was befitting a bride of the Anderson family. Every piece of lace was designed to express the dignity of the bride. As hymns played solemnly, the couple faced each other before the minister. Michael's eyes were filled with pure love. The ceremony proceeded smoothly. They exchanged vows and rings, pledging their love. Yet deep in Olivia's heart, the anxiety from the morning remained. As the reception began, the atmosphere gradually became more festive. Champagne corks popped, and a live orchestra filled the room. The Boston Symphony Orchestra's principal violinist created an elegant atmosphere with Mendelssohn's Wedding March. The chef's special, poached Maine lobster with seasonal vegetables, was served, and wine flowed freely. "Ladies and gentlemen," Carol's voice rang through the venue as she took the microphone. Dressed in an Oscar de la Renta drop-shoulder gown, she embodied the dignity of high society's queen. "I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for gathering here on this joyous day for the Anderson family." Warm applause erupted from the audience at her mother-in-law's perfect smile. But the next moment, Michael's phone rang. "An emergency conference call with a client," he said. With an apologetic expression, he left his seat and the venue. "I should be back in about 30 minutes, were his last words as Olivia was left alone. In that moment, she instinctively knew something was about to happen. As if on cue, the atmosphere began to change. First, the waitstaff's attitude shifted. Service to Olivia's table became extremely delayed. Wine wasn't poured. Eyes around the room began darting toward her. The subtle harassment particular to high society had begun. Ashley started speaking deliberately loudly. Her Hermès dress gleamed like a poisonous snake. "Hey, do you know where in Texas she's from? It's Houston, and not just anywhere in Houston, the low-income area. Her father was a supermarket clerk, her mother a cleaning lady. To think that in our family line." Laughter began leaking from corners of the venue. Olivia took a deep breath and maintained her composure. As a child welfare counselor, she was trained to deal with people's malice. Facing abuse and discrimination was part of her daily work. But the atmosphere here was clearly abnormal. Carol took the microphone again. This time, her previously loving expression had vanished, replaced by a cold smile. The chandelier light made her expression even more eerie. Her eyes gleamed with an unusual brightness beneath her makeup. "Oh yes, I have an announcement to make," Carol's voice deliberately slowly echoed through the venue. "Let me introduce our new housekeeper." The venue fell dead silent. The high society crowd seemed to hold their breath, as if sensing what was about to happen. "From now on, you'll be our housekeeper and babysitter. You're nothing but a slave. That's only natural if you're entering the Anderson family." At those words, Olivia instinctively tried to stand up. But as if anticipating this movement, Carol's foot moved swiftly. Her luxury brand leather boot struck out toward Olivia's abdomen. A dull thud echoed, followed by sharp pain. She had been kicked in her pregnant belly by the leather boot. Olivia reflexively curled up, trying to protect her twin babies. Before she could even scream, Ashley's high-pitched laughter rang out. Elegantly tilting her crystal wine glass, she said, "Of course, you'll take care of my baby too. For free. And all of Noah's care is your job too. That's only natural for a servant, isn't it?" Hesitant laughter began leaking from the venue. While witnessing this abnormal scene, the high society crowd, fearing the Anderson family's influence, remained silent. Though some lowered their eyes, others turned away. Media reporters were frantically writing. Tomorrow's headlines seemed to already be forming in their minds. Their eyes were bloodshot with the anticipation of a scandal for the social pages. At that moment, a single tear rolled down Olivia's cheek. But it wasn't a tear of fear or humiliation. Her eyes held a strong light of determination. Quietly standing up, she walked toward the exit. Back straight, never looking back. Just before touching the door, she said in a small but firm voice, "Please wait. I've recorded everything." The festive atmosphere of the venue froze instantly. The blood drained from Carol's face. When the door opened, 2 police officers stood there. Detective James O'Connor from the Boston Police Special Investigation Unit and Lieutenant Sarah Morrison from the Child Abuse Special Task Force. Behind them stood Michael. His expression showed a mix of anger and sadness. "Mrs. Carol Anderson, you're under arrest for assault." Detective O'Connor's voice echoed through the silent venue. The chandelier light dimly illuminated the police badges. The color drained from Carol's face. "What nonsense! Arrest me. I am Boston's. And we're also arresting you for causing harm to unborn children," Lieutenant Morrison calmly added. "We also have evidence of long-term psychological abuse." Ashley screamed, "Mother! This must be some mistake." She hurriedly stood up but stumbled, dropping her wine glass which shattered on the floor. Deep red wine spread across the pure white carpet. Then Olivia took out her smartphone. "Here's the evidence." The recording played. "That woman will make a perfect slave. While Michael is away on business trips, we'll work her to the bone. Yes, Mother. And if she doesn't obey us, those children will also receive appropriate punishment." Carol and Ashley's conversation was recorded in detail. Dates, times, locations, all documented. This wasn't just emotional outburst, it was evidence of planned abuse. Michael stepped forward. "Mother, why?" His voice was filled with deep sadness. "Oh, Michael. Why indeed?" Carol suddenly broke into a cold smile. "We are a chosen lineage. That country bumpkin and her children." Silence. Michael's angry voice shook the venue. No one had ever seen the usually gentle man so angry. "That's enough. Mother, and Ashley. I can no longer treat you as family." At that moment, Carol's mask completely fell away. "Your family is here. We are your real family. That woman is nothing but—" She suddenly lunged toward Olivia. However, her movement was immediately stopped by the police officers. The cold handcuffs bit into Carol's thin wrists. Ashley had collapsed in tears. "Noah, what will happen to my son?" Lieutenant Morrison answered calmly. "Child Services will make appropriate decisions. Your son's safety comes first." The venue was in chaos. The high society crowd was speechless at this unexpected turn of events. Media frantically wrote, camera flashes flickering. To think that Carol would. Beneath that philanthropist's mask. What will happen to the Children's Future Foundation? Whispers circulated through the venue. But they weren't voices of sympathy, rather, they contained disgust for years of hypocrisy. Olivia quietly walked to Michael. He gently embraced his wife, softly placing his hand on her belly. "Are you all right? Let's go to the hospital." "Yes, but—" "Don't worry. I won't let anyone hurt you all anymore." A warm atmosphere began surrounding the couple. Several guests approached, offering kind words. At that moment, the venue doors opened again. The Massachusetts General Hospital emergency medical team had arrived. Dr. Sarah Watson, an obstetrician and Olivia's colleague, rushed over. "Olivia. Let's examine you right away." The paramedics carefully moved Olivia onto a stretcher. Michael held her hand tightly as he accompanied her. Carol and Ashley were led away by police officers. Their retreating figures had completely lost their former dignity. Their luxury brand dresses now looked like pitiful protective gear. Among the remaining guests, a man stood up. A justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Court. "This is a grave matter. We need to immediately investigate all activities of the Children's Future Foundation." Other board members nodded at his words. After years of hypocrisy, all truths were about to be revealed. Initial police investigations revealed increasingly shocking facts. Carol's abuse wasn't new. Traces of abuse against past housekeepers, young staff members, and even her own daughter Ashley. Everything had been perfectly concealed, but now that darkness was about to be exposed to light. That night, at the hospital bedside holding Olivia's hand, Michael quietly spoke. "Thank you for your courage. And I can never forgive myself for not noticing my mother and sister's true nature." Olivia smiled and answered. "It's not your fault. And we still have hope." She gently placed her hand on her belly. The ultrasound showed the twins were safe. The interrogation room at Boston Police Headquarters was illuminated by cold fluorescent lights. Carol Anderson sat in a hard chair, still in her luxury brand dress. A large mirror was mounted on the wall, behind which investigators observed her every move. "Let me confirm again," Lieutenant Sarah Morrison opened a thick file. In front of her lay mountains of evidence gathered from the investigation. "Your history of abuse spans quite a long period." Carol snorted. "I am Boston's most respected philanthropist. These baseless rumors." Morrison calmly operated a tablet and played a video. It showed Carol abusing a young housekeeper. Security camera footage from the Anderson mansion in 2019. Then 2020, 2021, 2022. In the successive videos, Carol's cruelty escalated year by year. "Are these rumors too?" Carol's expression tensed. "That's. And there's more." This time, audio played. A conversation with Ashley's husband, ex-husband. Furthermore, internal whistleblower emails from the Children's Future Foundation were disclosed one after another. Fraudulent accounting, embezzlement of donations, improper intervention in personnel matters. Evidence of systematic crimes spanning over 20 years came to light one after another. In another room, Ashley was also being interrogated. She had already begun telling everything. "Mother demanded perfection from us," she spoke in a trembling voice. "Mistakes were absolutely forbidden. Bringing shame to the Anderson name was the greatest sin." When she rolled up her sleeve, old abuse scars appeared. "But I believed in Mother's love. I convinced myself it was all for our sake." Outside the interrogation room, Michael was having a serious discussion with a lawyer. Jane Hamilton, sent from Boston's most prominent law firm. "This isn't just a domestic violence case," Hamilton said. "Large-scale fraud using a charitable organization, systematic abuse over a long period, and..." She spread new documents. They contained records from Carol's younger years. 1985, her first marriage. Her husband's suspicious accidental death. 1990, divorce from her second husband. His disappearance immediately after. And then marriage to her current husband. Michael's father. All the patterns match. In the Massachusetts State Prosecutor's Office Special Investigation Room, teams worked around the clock analyzing evidence. 20 years of Children's Future Foundation's accounting records, emails, phone records. Everything was thoroughly investigated. "Track the flow of donations," the prosecutor instructed. "Especially transfer histories to offshore accounts." Data analysis revealed shocking facts one after another. Through charitable work, Carol had privately diverted approximately $50 million. Her methods were clever, routing through multiple shell companies before finally transferring funds to secret accounts in the Cayman Islands. Even more serious was the number of abuse victims. Over 20 years, more than 30 housekeepers had worked for the Anderson family. Most disappeared after a few months. Many were immigrants who endured abuse to continue sending money to their families back home. Newspapers began reporting extensively on the case. The social impact far exceeded expectations. Boston's high society was deeply shaken. Prominent figures who had close relationships with Carol were questioned one after another about their responsibility. The credibility of the entire charitable sector came under scrutiny. Media continued reporting new facts daily. Former housekeepers began coming forward with testimonies. We were constantly watched by surveillance cameras. Meals were only once a day, and just leftovers. They took our passports and restricted our movements. The Massachusetts General Hospital medical team analyzed traces of past abuse medically. The results were even more shocking. Ashley's body bore marks of abuse from childhood. However, they had been cleverly concealed. What was claimed to be treatments at luxury spas was actually treatment for hiding scars. New testimonies emerged from within the Children's Future Foundation as well. Her attitude at board meetings was like a dictator. Staff who voiced opposing opinions were immediately ruined. An accountant who tried to investigate the flow of donations suddenly disappeared. As the investigation progressed, the full picture of Carol's crimes gradually came to light. This wasn't just a case of abuse and embezzlement. It was a horrific history created by power, money, and twisted desire for control. Around that time, a letter arrived for Olivia at her hospital bed. It was from a housekeeper who had worked for the Anderson family 10 years ago. "Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your courage. Finally, we can be free. Truth can sometimes be cruel. However, the courage to face it creates new hope." Michael decided to submit all evidence to the prosecution. "Even if she's my mother, justice must be served." 6 months later, in a quiet residential area in the Boston suburbs, maple trees beginning to turn red gently embraced a new mansion. "Good morning, my angels." Olivia opened the curtains, letting morning sunlight into the twins' bedroom. Emma in her pink bed and Noah in his light blue bed stretched their tiny limbs as they awoke. Both had inherited Michael's eyes and Olivia's smile. Downstairs in the kitchen, Michael was preparing breakfast. He now headed the pharmaceutical company's research and development division. He poured his passion into developing new drugs for pediatric care while treasuring time with his family. The final verdict is in, Olivia showed her smartphone screen. The Massachusetts Supreme Court had sentenced Carol to 15 years in prison and Ashley to 7 years. Additionally, they were ordered to return the approximately $50 million they had misappropriated and pay compensation to the victims. "It's finally over," Michael's voice mixed relief with sadness. During the trial, there had been unexpected developments. Before beginning her sentence, Ashley completely gave up custody of her son Noah. In exchange, she promised to undergo counseling for rehabilitation. Within her had grown a desire to break the cycle of abuse received from her mother. Carol never admitted her wrongdoing until the end. However, her immense influence was completely lost. The Children's Future Foundation was dissolved and reborn as the New Hope Foundation under a new board of directors. The lives of former victims also began moving forward bit by bit. Former housekeepers began new lives with compensation from the foundation. Some opened small restaurants, others started attending their dream schools. Many became involved in supporting victims of human trafficking and abuse, using their own experiences. Olivia also began new activities. In addition to her work at Massachusetts General Hospital, she established a support organization called Survivor's Voice. It created a safe place for victims of domestic abuse and power-based oppression to speak up. These activities gradually spread nationwide. In a television interview, Olivia said, "We all have the right to live as ourselves. Taking that away through power or money is never acceptable. And if you have the courage to speak up, someone will surely help you. Michael also launched a research project at the pharmaceutical company focusing on mental health care for abuse victims. The old Anderson mansion was reborn as a victim support center. The place once filled with dark memories now radiates hope. One weekend afternoon, while walking in the park with their family, a stranger approached them. "Are you Olivia?" She spoke with tears in her eyes. "My daughter was saved by the counseling at your organization. Thank you so much." They had been hearing such words more frequently lately. The twins continued growing steadily. Emma developed her mother's compassionate heart, while Noah inherited his father's strong spirit of inquiry. Both thrived in the warmth of their family. Sometimes Ashley's son Noah, the twins' cousin, would come to play. He lived with a foster family, growing up in a new environment filled with love. The wounded child's heart was healing slowly but surely. A new family photo adorned the living room wall. It showed the smiling family of 4 with a large maple tree that had grown tall. The past suffering had certainly left deep scars. However, those scars now served as proof of new hope. Michael and Olivia walked forward together. Though they sometimes shed tears, they never lost hope. And their story continues to give courage to many people. The importance of speaking up, the strength to protect loved ones, and hope for building a new future. In the evening sky they watched as a family, a sunset spread across the horizon, promising a new tomorrow. "Hey, Michael," Olivia said while holding the twins. "We're going to be all right." "Yes, we are," he answered with a gentle smile. "Let's keep walking forward together." The seasons change, trees sprout new buds, and the story of hope continues.